Sophie Kinsella was the author of the Shopaholic series. Her novels have sold more than 50 million copies. They've been translated into 40 languages. Confessions of a Shopaholic was adapted into a hit movie.
And a black Vanice shoe in the size 10. And 2 Advil.
You speak Prada?
Sophie Kinsella was sick for a while, but then she died last week at just 55 years old, which is still feels like too soon for a lot of her fans. CT Jones is one of Sophie Kinsella's many fans, and they're here with us now to remember her. Hello, CT.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So CT, I mean, what was your reaction when you first heard the news that Sophie Kinsella had died?
I was so shocked. I had kind of missed the news that she was that sick, but then
Mm.
once I saw the news that she had passed, I was just so incredibly sad. She's kind of been one of those voices in the romance world that's remained a staple. I mean, she's so young, which is doubly heartbreaking, but she had this incredibly prolific voice. She published close to, I think, 30 books. And so I feel like Sophie Kinsella for me is just representative of someone who like kept chugging along. I feel like every time I walked into a bookstore or a library, there was a new book with her name on it. And I was like, very likely thing for her to do. It was kind of like seeing like an old friend. I was like, oh, there's another Sophie Kinsella book. Like, good for you, girl.
Yeah. Well, and look, I mean, there's been an outpouring of responses and remembrances following her death. Many sharing in that sentiment that you're saying about her, her feeling like a close friend in that way. What are we hearing about the kind of person that Sophie Kinsella was?
Well, obviously, beloved, beloved, beloved by her
Mm.
family. They're remembering her as this kind of loving daughter. She was just a kind of devoted wife and mother. And from the statement that her family released, it kind of seemed like who she was in person really reflected the characters that she brought to life in her books. And she was someone who approached life with such humor and kindness. Another British author, Jojo Mize, she wrote Me Before You. She said that she had never met anyone who kind of carried more grace than Sophie Kinsella. And she was kind, smart, and she said that she wore her success and her brilliance so lightly, which I feel like is such a beautiful way to describe a friend.
I love that. Well, I mean, look, I mean, when it comes to Sophie Kinsella, I mean, the Shopaholic series is what she's best known for, right? She, of course, wrote all these other books. You mentioned 30 books, right? But so what is it about specifically the Shopaholic books, though, that connected her with the kind of a massive global audience?
Yeah, I am a romance connoisseur, right? I read so many romance books. And what's so special about Shopaholic is the time that it was published. First book was published in 2001, so it's right after
Mhm.
the start of this 2000s recession where you see a lot of people reaching for comfort in this mass media that they're consuming. And Kinsella managed to hit the nail right on the head of people being rightly confused and concerned about where their life was going and acknowledging that you can be like, hey, job market's bad right now. I'm on a lot of credit card debt. Life still goes on. This is a big trend that's gotten less popular in recent years, but a lot of Kinsella's characters kind of focus on this idea of people falling in love while the rest of their life is in crisis,
Mm.
not really knowing what to do, not really knowing where to go. And a lot of times there are things out of their control. For Shopaholic, the main character has a crippling shopping addiction, which
Mm.
could be treated lightly, but I think Sophie really delves into not just why she can't stop shopping, but like what is it internally that makes her so prone to consumption? What is she that hole? What is she trying to fill in a way that I think other authors might have treated a little bit lightly? And you can kind of see the trend from Sophie's work to now. This is in recent years, it's kind of become a caricature, like this romance character who like she can't tie her shoe and think without like spilling coffee on her shirt like minutes before her big interview meeting, right? This is like the romance character that we think of, but Sophie really managed to kind of imbue this charm in her work where yes, these characters were a mess, but they were like real people dealing with real stuff. And I think the way that she treated that time with such respect made people rightly love her.
You know, it's so interesting when you talk about the kind of the commerce of this romance, because that I think taps into the origins of rom-com, right? Rom-com being born out of the Great Depression, rom-com being a very aspirational type of genre where you want to hook up rich, you know, get the Prince Charming that could like give you all the purses and things. Now, I mean, and then it's interesting because rom-coms, you know, they're treated as on the surface light, fluffy, just fun. I imagine that's exactly how Sophie Kinsella's novels are being viewed. But what do you think? I mean, is there more to what people find? Like, is there more depth in terms of that people did not, you know, to really like appreciate, or is there more that she took seriously that others weren't?
It's the middle class. Sophie Kinsella understood the kind of structure of what it means to be middle class. So a lot of her books are set in England, but many of them, like I mentioned earlier, characters who are kind of like, I don't know what to do with my life, they're stuck. And a lot of times it's because of situations that are outside of their control, whether it's lack of job growth or kind of not knowing what to do, or in many cases they've been fired or they're burnt out. And I think what she seems to take seriously is like money is a big thing for people, and it is a big thing for people, and it impacts people's lives, and you can care about money without being vain or vapid. And another thing that I think Sophie did so particularly beautifully, is she managed to tackle that like gorgeous age of 23, which is a period of like the most massive upheaval in a young woman's life. And she does such a really like fantastic job of being like, this is so exciting and so freeing. And if you're 50 looking back, you're like, that is the greatest time of your life. And she can also acknowledge the immense pressure that actually feels like at 23 to be like, I don't know what's happening. And it feels like the world is moving forward without me. And I don't know how to grow up in this space.
Well, look, I mean, you know, you've clearly read, understood, enjoyed, consumed all of these books. I'd love
So
to know.
many.
Yeah. So there's just 30 seconds left. Can you just kind of down to a nugget? What is the one takeaway or lesson you hope people take away from Sophie Kinsella's work?
I mean, I say it again and again, her characters don't have it all together. And I think when you read the books, at the end of all of them, you come away with this idea that that's okay. You know, life is built up in these moments, and it's okay to not have it all together. But the only responsibility that we have as we grow and learn is that it's okay to not have it all together as long as you're treating others and yourself with a little bit of grace.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you so much, CT, for sharing all that with us.
Of course, thanks for having me.
C.T. Jones writes about internet and pop culture for Rolling Stone. For more on Sophie Kinsella and her life and legacy, go to cbcnews.ca. And that's it for the podcast today. Remember, you can listen to any episode of Commotion anytime, wherever you get your podcast. And check us out on YouTube and Instagram. We're at Commotion CBC. I'm Radheyan Simonpillai, sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. Elamin will be back tomorrow. We'll see you next time.